Hi, I just wanted to say hi before I start sharing my screen. My name's Valerie Repsman. I'm a marriage and family therapist and board certified art therapist. And today I'll be talking a bit about art and the brain. I'll be sharing my screen so that we can both see the slides. And before I do that, I just wanted to just a little face-to-face wave. I hope you're all enjoying the Summer Institute this week. Take care. And I will be sharing my screen in a moment. Okay, I think I'm back. I think I'm recording. I should be sharing a screen. And the screen share should look like that. Thanks for bearing with me through some of these technical navigations. Okay, there's our title slide. Art Making in the Brain, Valerie Repsman. That's me, like I mentioned. And I wanted to share an image with you before we get into kind of our main discussion today. And this image is a portrait of Cajal, who's known as the father of neuroscience. And for me, this image reflects themes of what I appreciate about neural education and inspired me to become more involved with this program. And that's the appreciation of interdisciplinary learning and collaboration. This piece is a drawing by an artist named Dawn Hunter. She was inspired by the work of Spanish neuroscientist Cajal, who, in addition to being known as the father of neuroscience, was quite an accomplished artist himself and created detailed illustrations of his microscopic observations. In just the last couple of years, there was a traveling exhibit of his drawings throughout the United States. So in a way, now more than ever, there is an increase in attention and research to the crossover between science and the arts. But today, we will be focused more on the impact of that art making can have within the brain and a person's response or behavior, a snapshot of the historical evolution of visual communication, and how imagery can support humans in making meaning within their own self-reflections through a process called response art. So kind of where we're at today with thinking about the impact of art making and the brain, it's more than just a visual communication. You know, cross-culturally, the arts are practiced in cultures around the world for as long as humans have existed in one capacity or another. And really there's a better understanding of how the arts engage all senses. There's an internal and external experience that can happen. There's increased understanding of the reward center and how the art making can kind of tap into some of those dopamine centers. Just reading around kind of counterclockwise, starting on the brain image, I'm just going to note that we have increased positive perspectives, increased neural connectivity in the area of the brain that deals with introspection, memory, and self-monitoring. We become more self-aware. We get better at coping in the future. We become more psychologically resilient. And our brains are very active when engaged in producing art. So kind of taking a step back into history, let's think about how our brain development has been impacted by the ways we could communicate. Nowadays, we take our communication skill set for granted, which includes the ability to have graphic art, gesture, auditory, which includes language, music. But for at least 50,000 years, we've had these three types of communication, but that wasn't always the case. Our neocortex the development of the neocortex really enabled sensory perception, precise motor control, spatial reasoning, abstract and rational thought, and in humans, the capacity for developing language. In essence, humans grew into our ability transfer information through shared meaning, especially through visual means, whether it's artwork, symbols, shapes. Some of these cave images with the dots and even the topography of the selected points within the cave where an image is added may be in itself a primitive form of language and communication that extends beyond time. So if a human painted in a cave, that can be viewed year after year after year of generations. So it's kind of demonstrates their capacity for the continuity of a future, present, future, past, that type of thing. So today, though, you will be invited to create an image, and please consider the centuries of complex work our brains have undergone that make that possible. And I recognize that an art or image making does not feel comfortable for everyone. Many of us have undergone social conditioning and experiences that left us feeling vulnerable and ashamed of our images. And when I talk about art, what I really mean is image making using color and shape. This exercise is not capital A fine art. We are not grading, we are not judging. You will be invited to reflect on the process rather than the finished product. Today, we're intentionally engaging and honoring our multiple senses of our highly evolved selves to enhance and solidify our learning and understanding. Sometimes I hear, whether it's youth or parents or adults, just saying like, I'm not an artist. And it reminds me of how I sometimes would say like, I'm not a math person. And again, that kind of speaks to the growth versus fixed mindset of, how a person approaches a situation. So sometimes I like to say like, let's destigmatize this, I'm not an artist, because for centuries, literally for all of human existence, we've been making images, we have the capacity to do this. It's an important extension of our expression. So even if you're comfortable with creating images, or maybe you're feeling a little hesitant with this idea and invitation today, it could be helpful to bring awareness to your own personal art history. And so I'd invite you to pause, and even if you need to pause this presentation to jot down some responses to some of these bullet points that I will be reading through in just a moment. This is adapted from Malchiodi, 2006. So number one, what was art in your life growing up? Was it, for example, drawing and coloring, crafts, museum or gallery trips, learning handiwork from a relative, or pictures on the living room wall? So write down some notes about what you remember. Maybe a second reflection would be, what kind of beliefs did your family have about art? And 3, when you were young, did you have a favorite art or craft activity, such as coloring, painting by number, embroidering, knitting, or building things? What do you remember about it? And the last kind of reflection question would be, did you ever have a negative experience with art when you were a child? Were you told, for example, that you were not artistic, that your older siblings was the artist in the family, or that your art expressions were not good enough? So I'm going to transition to a process called response art, which is in essence the creation of a visual art piece with focused intention to increase awareness on a situation, experience, dynamic, or concern. When approaching or beginning a piece, or throughout the process of creating an image, some tips to consider might be: observe the dynamics objectively. What is the momentum of the situation that you're contemplating? Is there a push and pull? Is there an element of stalling, avoiding? Is there a student who's too loud, too fast? Are there kind of like lack of boundaries? Second tip might be, what is your point of view? Are you outside looking in? Are you inside looking out? Is it a collaborative point of view? Is it isolated? Is it shared or independent? Can you create a piece from someone else's point of view? Third, process versus product. So there's no wrong way to approach this, to do this invitation to create an image, but listen to the process, kind of pay attention to where your instincts take you. I'm going to show two examples of some response art. And this first piece is by a woman named Kelly Riddle, who was starting her internship in an elementary school. And I'm actually going to read from the book that it's published in, just a paragraph here. It's from a book called Art-Based Supervision: Cultivating Therapeutic Insight Through Imagery. Kelly drew first day after starting her internship at a public elementary school and brought it to fieldwork supervision class. On her first day, she spent time being introduced to students and teachers and visiting classrooms, trying to learn the students' behavioral program and the school's culture. Her drawing represents how the cacophony of experiences excited and overwhelmed her. She created a trail of white sewing machine stitches weaving around the composition. She said, "The whole day was a mesh of color, sound, excitement, and new faces. The stitching represents my presence in this mix, trying to take it all in and find a place for myself." And so I don't know if it comes across from what you're seeing in your screen, but she's referring to these sewing machine stitches. So it looks to me as though the piece was colored pencil on paper, and she chose to run her paper through the sewing machine to kind of give it some texture. And the, like she described, that element of holding things together. So a second example of response art is actually one that I created recently in my work with a fourth grader who expressed that they had been feeling lonely due to the COVID-19 quarantine. I used this example in just acknowledging that response art can be quick. It can be, a 5-minute sketch. It could also be a piece that forms over several days of reflection. It does not have set parameters. And like I started to say, I created this piece actually during a Zoom call in response to the students' expressed feelings of isolation and loneliness. So it's not, response art is not necessarily have to be explained or shared. However, it can be a way to mirror what has been heard or to engage in a conversation. So for this piece, I was responding to the student saying he felt lonely. We both simultaneously created images that would show what lonely looks like and then shared those with each other. So I was able to let him know that the heart symbolized his capacity and desire to connect with others, and that I heard and saw the overwhelming sense of isolation and the barriers to connecting with others. By creating this piece, I had a new perspective and understanding of the student's experience. The image of the heart supported my understanding of their unmet need and capacity for connection to others. So drum roll, here it is, your own invitation to create response art. The subject of your response art is up to you. The material you choose are up to you. They may be supplies you're comfortable with or ones you're curious to explore. The piece can be literal, abstract, 2 dimensions, 3, it could be a sculpture. Really, any materials are welcome. They're, again, not grading, not judging, your choice. However, if that feels overwhelming and you do need a little structure, consider creating a piece that might be in response to some of our current events around racial equity and inequity discussions, adjustments to COVID-19, Perhaps reflect on a student who has been significant, either positive or challenging in your career, or even how will your neural ed experience impact you as a teacher or as a person. And again, your response art piece does not have to be in response to any of these specific topics. I'm just throwing these out there, recognizing that some people feel a little more comfortable with structure. Others will have their own aha light bulb and have a specific topic that they're wanting to explore. So after you create your piece, or when you're ready to pause and just say that's done for now, and you're welcome to return to it, at any time, please write a short paragraph that describes aspects of your piece that you are comfortable sharing with the group. So examples might include, if you would like, again, a little structure, there's a few sentence stems here. While doing this project, I noticed, I was surprised by, this piece reflects. So again, there's no wrong way. This is just a little structure. If you would like some support around that, then take a photograph of your piece and include your paragraph that you're willing to share on your slide. So upload the slide with the photo of your piece and the reflection. And I have an example on the next page. So here's the piece that I've already described. I have a paragraph on the right and the image in the center. And again, your piece might be a sculpture, it might be an outdoor landscape art piece, it might be sewing, knitting, yarn, clay, Play-Doh, whatever it is, just take a photo. It doesn't have to be a drawing, it doesn't have to be a painting. Put it all on one slide. Upload it to Canvas for the community gallery. I'm so excited to see all your pieces. This will be a lot of fun. So just keep in mind, we destigmatize capital A art. Whatever you create is welcome. It's part of the process here. Try curiosity with any feelings of hesitation or resistance. If you're a person who has that inner critic who's saying like, that's not good enough, how do I do this? Why are they making me do this? I hate this. Respond with curiosity. Just allow to be, allow the discomfort to be there and be curious about it. It's okay not to have a plan. Use your SEL skills to engage yourself. If you have a student who's responding with some of the responses that you might encounter in yourself, or maybe you're excited and enthused, that's great. Take a break when you need to. Attend to yourself. You got this, you can do this. And then here on the slide, I included an image from last summer's Summer Institute where one of the participants, I believe on a lunch break, happened to have chalk and went out and started creating neurons on the sidewalk. And so I thought I'd share that as an example of what can happen. So thanks for all being here, and I've included my references. Feel free to peruse the slides, and there are some additional websites and resources that might be of interest if you'd like to learn more information about some of the topics that I have shared today. So thanks all for being here. I hope you have a great time. I'm available as a resource. My contact information is in Canvas. And don't hesitate to reach out for this project if you have questions or concerns or would like a little guidance or structure. I'm really looking forward to the community gallery and to see what has been created. All right, take care. Thanks.